Maysan province in southeastern Iraq was one of 4 Iraqi provinces placed under British control following the 2003 U.S.-led invasion. Freelance journalist David Axe visited there late last year while embedded with British troops.
Maysan province is a sparsely populated, mostly desert province north of Basra. It's one of the 4 provinces occupied by British forces, but recently the British Army has been withdrawing from Maysan. This is possible because Maysan has always been more independent than most Iraqi provinces. If you view Iraq as being not one but effectively 3 countries, Kurdistan in the north, north-central Iraq with its largely Sunni population, and then the Shiite south, even within that Shiite south, Maysan is almost its own country. It's deeply, deeply tribal and extremely conservative, and the tribal chiefs hold such sway in Maysan that they've been able to keep foreign infiltrators, Sunni insurgents, and undesirable elements out of the province. While the British forces completely abandoned all their fixed bases in the province, they still maintain a roving patrol, and that patrol is focused on the border with Iran. The idea being that that kind of mobility and that kind of surveillance capability, it's something you can't expect these poor tribes to possess. So the Brits are effectively supporting the tribal forces with a couple squadrons of vehicles, including some light tanks, mostly jeeps, supported by helicopters, that just rove up and down the Iranian border, keeping an eye out for infiltrators and people smuggling weapons or potential insurgents. Prior to the early summer of 2006, British forces in Maysan province were headquartered in a camp called Abu Naji, which is actually a former Ba'ath prison. Needless to say, local residents really didn't feel good about this prison even existing, much less a foreign army inhabiting it. So the base became what some British officers called a mortar magnet. And the commander of British forces in Maysan, when I was there, Lieutenant Colonel David Labouchere, was at Abu Naji in its final weeks, and it was actually on the receiving end of one of the most intense mortar barrages that has ever occurred in occupied Iraq. That attack convinced British forces, especially Labouchere, who had a key role in lobbying for abandoning Abu Naji and taking to the desert in mobile patrols. Colonel, could you describe what you're doing?
In polite terms?
Yes.
We're putting up camouflage nets.
What for?
It basically gives us cover from the sun, and gives us somewhere in which to exist out of the desert. And it also hides the vehicles from anybody who casually looks in this direction. It doesn't hide us completely. You can't hide completely in the desert, but you can get close.
The Labouchere's troops stop for the night in any kind of geographically secure location, say for instance like a shallow depression on a big plain. The idea being they want to get themselves out of view, but also want to be able to see anybody who's trying to sneak up on them. Coalition forces in Iraq are used to operating out of highly secure, fortified, permanent facilities, basically castles. And getting outside those castles and sleeping out in the open is kind of a terrifying experience for somebody who's accustomed to being behind feet of concrete and barbed wire. And to keep themselves secure, they post sentries who just watch all night long to spot anybody trying to sneak up. You've encountered these folks before?
Yes. Yeah, they're right near the two vehicles. We've met them. They're very nice people. But he's not about to attack us.
for?
Thank you.
Hello.
Ali. Brother? Do this way?
Hello.
زين.
زين good.
زين.
مترجم عربي
شوي شوي.
شوي.
Do you want anything from me here? Like
Sure, tell us where we are.
directions? Well, we're about a kilometre from the Iranian border, and that's an Iranian border fort that you can see at about 1 o'clock. And to the north, you can probably see the next border fort. Where is the next?
صحراء.
It's over the hill.
إنما.
Okay, I'm with you. I didn't bring an interpreter. I should have done. And the other way, can you see?
هذا من هذا
Inside, yes, I know where it is. We'll go there this afternoon.
إيران. ذاك
Okay, yeah, I can see it. Yeah, I see it. And that's the second one. You just pointed out down there, and you can see the Iranian fort just to its left. If you go on sort of 50 times zoom or something.
And what is this facility here?
This is a border fort in the Teve sector, and these gentlemen are the weekly 38 men who live here and work here and go out in vehicles to patrol up and down the border. And this is a particularly good station. You can see from the tidiness that this border fort is well looked after, and from the welcome we got, which is generally matched elsewhere. These are very good shirta, very good policemen.
And what's the purpose of the fort?
The fort's here basically to secure the border. They patrol between the two. Nothing bigger than a man on foot can get through, they reckon. And they know the ground very well indeed. So they patrol on a daily basis and a nightly basis.
And what's the threat that they're interdicting?
It could be anything from smuggling of drugs through weaponry, but also old-fashioned trading of spices and rugs and white goods. The fridges come across here on the back of camels, but they've stopped them in this sector. It's a very good sector. And the country, as you can see, is rough, hard, war-damaged. There are an awful lot of minefields through here. You might have seen on the way up some fortifications from the Iran-Iraq War. It's a pretty secure part of a generally fairly porous border. But I often think that even in America, between Mexico and Texas, you've got a fairly porous border at times. And these guys do a pretty good job on 283 kilometers of border.
So how would you rate the border force?
Well trained, well equipped, and with their hearts in the right places. They sometimes suffer from some lack of material. We're talking about mostly fuel, but that's been improved radically over the last 6 months. You'll see that they're tidy, they look the part, they're professional, they've got very good vehicles, and they work hard. And when they're off duty, they're like any of the rest of us, they relax.